to the cloud.
Okay.
Great. So thanks for agreeing to have a chat, Dave. Yours is a fascinating story, and it's something I think that people who are experiencing pain, they're always looking at ways that which they can recover from similar things, and we all got a different story into pain. But I'd like, if you're happy to, just to tell a little bit about what happened with you, where you came to the point of having this pain that you struggle to get rid of.
Yeah, of course, yeah. So, I mean, for me, as I said, when I came to see you, it manifested itself when I was in the car. So I would have what I could only describe as a shooting sciatic pain in my right leg. It made being in cars purgatory for me if I was in for any more than 20 minutes or something like that. And that developed over a period of probably 10 years, 10, 15 years, where I hadn't realised it, to a point where it just got unbearable. So I said, I need to go see the man.
And if you went back, I mean, originally I was thinking, oh, it'd be 5 years, but it's probably been longer when you looked at it, had it? When you dug back a bit, you felt it'd been a longer pattern than that.
Yeah, once we'd had the conversation and thought about it, I thought it started more recently. But the more I contemplated and looked back, it started a long time before when I thought about it. Which, like, I thought it was in the last 5 years, but it went back even further, 10, 15 years. I can remember the pain now. Yeah,
and when you first kind of presented with it for this like 5-year history of pain, and linked to the car, and you're traveling abroad and one thing or another, had you when we looked at what you'd associate it with? Obviously, it was the sitting in the car that brought the back pain, sciatica. And what else was going on at the time that you think might be linked now we look back?
Well, originally I thought it was all a physical thing to do with driving. It started first when I was driving the car. And so when I had my legs in a certain position driving for long periods, I thought it was just something physical associated with that. And then when I moved to the passenger side and my colleague was driving a lot, it continued, and that started to baffle me. And I was like, I don't understand this. Now, I came to see you because I didn't know whether there was something about posture, something about, whether I need to do stretching exercises, that kind of thing. And at the time, I wouldn't have said that there was anything. I didn't think of it being in any shape or form mentally related.
Yeah.
At that time, it hadn't dawned on me in the slightest.
Yeah, and I think that's really common, because our default position in evolutionary terms is to get pain and look for the thing that's bitten us.
Yeah.
Fight the moment.
I thought it definitely related to the sitting position, whether because you were sat or some kind of physical structural thing. And it was, I remember it distinctly, sat in the reception waiting to see you. And I read the first thing about your book, and that piqued my interest to begin with. And then when you start the questionnaires, we did the first session, I realized where we were going with it immediately. And it was like, you did the physical checks and you explained about trauma and everything else. And it wasn't that. And for me, that was like, all right. The biggest thing for me was it felt out of my control. Once we'd had a couple of sessions together, I knew I could deal with it, and that was very empowering. That previously you just feel victim to the whole thing, but once we discussed that it could be, as a emotional pain, let's say, manifesting itself, then I knew I could do something about that, and that was brilliant.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, if you shine a light on it and say, well, what is it? Is it my fault for not dealing in the right way? It isn't fault. It's about accepting responsibility, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Like you say, at first I was kicking myself because I was saying I should just go see Drew because there must be something physical, and so I'm a fool for not getting this fixed. For Drew to fix this problem, tell me what it is and tell us what I need to do and fix it. But as you say, once I'd been and we'd had the conversation, then it definitely was my responsibility. And I think I said to you, maybe as we go on to it, but it kind of didn't disappear overnight. There's still times when I can feel a tensioning, but I know I can slacken it off just by my thought processes versus where I was before, where I felt totally disempowered. But now, having an understanding, then I have total responsibility for how I feel in the car. Yeah,
that's a very frank way to see it, because you are an open guy. I know you anyway before you came as a patient, and I know that in you. But a lot of people find it difficult to even accept the concept that there's another way to look at pain.
Well, and we've discussed that there's other people I know who've been to see you and maybe look at it and go, well, yeah, that's all right for a while, but then it comes back. So it must be physical. And like my viewpoint with that is, I'm not looking after myself emotionally well enough. It's manifest itself, and I need to relax here. And it's amazing how quickly you can get it go. But 100%, like when people, what I found fascinating about this is people say if it re-manifests itself, then the original diagnosis must be wrong. There was something there underlying, and it's not. I'm still responsible and I can still sort this out. That's what I find fascinating about the whole thing.
Yeah. It just means the pathway has been triggered again. The pathway is triggered, but people think pain equals damage. So if the pain comes back, the damage must be still be there, but there's no relationship between pain and damage in reality.
No.
You can have damage without pain and pain without damage.
100%. And as I say, soon as that you'd help me clock that and log on to that, then as I say, it's empowering, because I know I don't need to come back and see you and get shown how to do some stretch or do something else. I know, as you say, the pathways reopened. I've got to think, calm myself down and de-stress myself, let's say, in that situation. And it's amazing how quickly it works.
And what were the practical things you did in your context? Because yours was driving a lot, going to your work away kind of thing. So what did you practically do? Well,
like everybody, I came out and we did the run of the legs exercise, and I was going to do that every day, like everybody probably says, and I was doing more stretching. Reality is, I was traveling not long, probably a few days after, and I didn't have a chance to do a lot of that. And I got in the car, and because of what we just, it wasn't anywhere near as bad. It was almost like free bit, but certainly it wasn't unbearable, and it was hardly noticeable. And so like everybody, I got lazy with that side. I didn't do anything physical to make this any easier, and I haven't since. And the other thing I said to you at the time was I used to take, as prep for getting in the car, I'd take cocodamol and Nurofen or something, because I knew it was going to be a killer after a certain period of time. So that very first trip, I didn't take anything, and I've never took anything since.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Brilliant when it works. Because they become a crutch, don't they? These things become a crutch, a preparation for the battle. And
I don't take any of them, and I don't go out my way to be like do any special stretching or anything. I just know that I don't even think about it when I get in the car. If I think after an hour or so my legs stiffening or anything, I just relax and switch off a bit more, and that's it. I've learned not to tense up, and that's how I deal with it. I don't let it get a grip of me that way.
Yeah. So essentially, the biggest thing that's changed in your presentation, you're the same age, weight, height. You have more wear and tear now than you had a few months ago. All the things that we think contribute to our pain. You have the same posture, travel in the same car. All those things are exactly the same. And the reality is the thing that's changed is your perception.
Yeah, 100%. That knowledge come from outside of me has allowed me to deal with this, and physically, in terms of trauma and all those other things you described, nothing. My body hasn't changed in any shape or form. Maybe it's a couple of Christmas, but
all of us, that's all right, and that doesn't change the pain in itself. There's no evidence for that as well. For people think it's the weight and the height and the size and all these things. No. Out of interest, when you've obviously traveled with the guys you worked with, and they probably anticipate your leg being bad, and how are you, Dave? What's the response of other people who've seen you change, maybe?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's not something that they would hear me moaning in the car. And at the end of the first journey, I waited deliberately to the end of the journey. We're 5-10 minutes away, and I said, "Do you notice anything this trip to Jack, my son, and Mallow I travel with?" And they went, "What do you mean?" Like, I went, "I'm not complaining about my leg." And I explained the situation, and Mal, my mate, said, "Isn't he good with overdrafts?" If I said, "Don't think about that, we'll let go away." And we jest about it like that every time. Towards the end of the trips, they'll ask the question. So anyway, and that's how we deal with it. That's it.
Yeah. Well, it is. It's you're one of the first people, I think, that's kind of that I've come across who kind of got it so fast. And why? Who knows? I think maybe an inquiring mind, an engineering mind, curious mind. Certainly not one that's closed off, because we all have our beliefs, even if we like to be open about things. But so I suppose the point is that there's a point at which we reach. We've got to step through the door and ask for help, haven't we? With whoever it is you go to.
100%. But you just hit nail on the head in two aspects of life. I trust you. And I trust your judgment, especially when it comes to physiotherapy. And that to me, you've got a lot of kudos and there's a lot of trust there. So as soon as we had the conversation, for me, everything you said made sense, and there wasn't a doubting from my side. I knew as soon as you were talking to me and you'd done the initial checks, it wasn't physical. So from there, as you say, like I very much in terms of being a construction manager, you're a leader on the site. So I'm very much into the psychological aspects of leadership and team building and all that kind of thing. So your mind's curious towards that kind of thing. So it's very open. As soon as you say, that's like go for me.
And I suppose for physios or therapists who are watching these videos as well, it's a very tough position for them to take, because you can't deliver it with doubt.
No, and I said to you at the time, by the time you're talking to me, you've been through this lots of times. You'd obviously wrote a book, so you believe, everything you say. I just remember back to when Josh first came to see you and you did the Osgood Slatters. It was like, that was miracle hands for me, So if you have a relationship, say, with the physio, you have to trust what they're telling you. You have to trust their intuition about your body. It's, to me, it's a bit like a racing driver in a setup with his car with his mechanics. It's that kind of thing, You have to have that trust. And fortunately with you, that's how I feel. So the rest was like, it sounds miraculous, but it wasn't. It's very simple.
Yeah, it is a system, isn't it? It's very systematic.
Yeah.
A lot of people said, I hope it works. I said, well, don't hope. Either do it or don't. Don't try. Either do it or don't. But it's possible it really is possible for everyone. If they do need to create their own circumstances, it's a perfect storm to enter it, but it's also you've got to create the perfect storm to exit it as well, really, haven't you? You have to control the weather, in weather being kind of metaphorical, the stuff that appears in our life that can keep us stuck. You almost have to, independent of what else is going on, is be that consistent downgrading.
I think for me, though, it was, like you say, being, if you've got an engineering background in any shape or form, somebody says to you there's nothing physically broken with you, and it's not the way that you're sitting or anything like that, then that's enough for me. Yeah. In my world, that's the mathematics or the engineering of the problem. That's that bit's described. The rest of my bit to work on.
Yeah. And that reassurance sets the tone, doesn't it, I suppose?
Yeah.
Sets the tone for it. Dave, I'm very grateful. You'd be surprised how many, you might not be, but you'd be surprised how many people this eventually might get to. You could help even that you don't even realise. So I'm thanks very much for having a bit of chat with me on a Friday afternoon.
My pleasure, mate. The one thing I'll say to anybody, if they are listening, is if you relapse or slip back a bit, don't give up on the process. Don't think that that's what's broke. It's just where you're coming from at that point in time. And as you say, be gentle on yourself, but it doesn't mean to say it's not that the underlying theory is wrong. It's right. It's just a question of how we work our way through it.
Yeah, well, it's great advice, Dave. Trust the process. It's such good advice. Well, I hope you have a great weekend.
And you, mate.
And I look forward to catching up with you again sometime when you're back in the UK.
All right, mate. Nice one. Cheers now.
Ta-ra, pal. Bye-bye.
Cheers.